Okay, so today we're gonna do something a little different because I think I need to have a fireside chat here about this Alpakka 2 controller that Input Labs just announced that they're working on. And people in the gyro community are really excited about it, and everybody's talking about it right now. So let me drop my 2 cents in about what I think about it. I did a review previously about, right here, the Alpakka, the OG Alpakka, and it had amazing gyro performance, but then there was also a lot of problems. And like when I was trying to play games with this on a regular basis, there was just a lot of things with this controller that were bothering me. Like when I played, like you have these little shells here that are just all up on your middle finger the entire time, and this controller just didn't feel comfortable. It's like they thought a lot about the internal components, but didn't think a lot about, you know, the rest of it essentially. I mean, one problem you got with the Alpaca is you have a $200 controller that has the old potentiometers, and if you watch this channel, you know that that's one of my pet peeves. I complained about that in the Switch 2 review that I just did, where they had a $90 controller that had that. Now we're talking about a $200 controller that has that. And the one thing that everybody complains about when I show like almost anybody this controller is the shell. I mean, the design looks a little bit bizarre, and it's not really as bad as what people think it is, but there were some problems. Like this little part right here, this little corner would kind of like rub you, and I sanded it down to make it a little bit better, but it's just not as good as this, a regular design controller. I mean, they was trying to kind of like overthink this and kind of do something different. And a lot of these controllers, like the PS5 DualSense controller and all the controllers made by the major, players in the console market or whatever, those were developed under like tons of focus groups, and they invested tons of money and had engineers and stuff figure all this stuff out. And what they needed to do is Input Labs is just follow what worked instead of trying to do something different that they didn't really know what they were doing, at least in the design part of the shell, I think. But the internal components are crazy in this. I mean, this thing really did do what it was advertised. It had mouse like accuracy. And I praised that constantly throughout my review of this controller. But I was honest about everything else that wasn't good. And I thought this is going to be like the mythic katana of controllers that I was going to use all the time. That was going to be a replacement for everything else. And I was super excited about getting this controller. And then unfortunately, after a couple of weeks of using it or whatever, I just went right back to using the DualSense. And I'll tell you some reasons why. One reason was because I did a ton of work to get this right joystick to work. And unfortunately, how that worked out is as soon as I updated Rewas, then it wouldn't work anymore. So it went to the Alpakka update to where it was no longer registering as like an Xbox 360 controller. So then this right joystick here couldn't be mapped to mouse, and it was just mapped like they intended to where it was just like a hat switch or whatever. Like this joystick's supposed to just be like a replacement for a hat switch. It's not even really supposed to be used for recentering your character. And I don't want to learn an entirely different method of how to play, trying to learn how to ratchet. So right there, that kind of like killed the controller entirely for me or whatever. But then, you look right here on the design, and what do you see? Two joysticks on that bitch. Two full-size joysticks. And a controller design that looks normal. Glory Jesus, hallelujah. Okay, but that's not really what people are truly excited about. I mean, the thing that most people are excited about is going to be that quad gyro. I mean, this right here, you got a controller with 4 motion sensors. That's insane. To me, that's overkill because the Alpakka controller, right here, the OG, This thing was as accurate as you'd ever need it to be, in my humble opinion. You don't need any more than what was inside of this. What you needed was everything else. You know, like actually having like decent joysticks, having like responsive buttons, not having this digging into your hand, and having and yeah, but they've. I'm gonna tell you something. Input Labs, I roasted them a little bit, and the gyro community got a little bit upset with me about it, thinking I was too harsh. But I was doing it for a reason. I was doing it because I believe in what those guys were trying to do, and I was trying to lead them on the right path. Like, dude, you can't have some weird polygonal look with a 3D printed shell, bro. You gotta have something that looks like a normal controller. And not everybody wants the ratchet. There's people like me or whatever that like to use the right thumbstick or whatever to just free look their character around, you know. And then there's some people too. There's also a popular thing in the gyro community that like to use flick stick, and I think that's why they had that like. That's why they had the stick be like that or whatever, so it would still kind of work like a hat switch, but with a joystick, so people could do that. This have all three methods so you can play no matter how you wanted to play. And it looks like here from the design picture that they show, it looks like they figured out where to put that scroll wheel, because they wanted to put the scroll wheel. I didn't even put the scroll wheel inside the controller. They wanted to put like right here, like right next to the joystick or whatever. And that like, well, since I made it taller, it gets in the way, of course. But that's why they had to make the joystick so tiny, and so you can use that scroll wheel. But now they figured out that you can put it like at the bottom. So when you're controlling it, like have the scroll wheel right there. Yeah, that feels great. Yeah, if they put it there, that would be amazing. Put it like right there at the bottom of the controller. That's where it needs to be. They figured this out. So yeah, it's gonna have the thumbstick's touch surface if you like the ratchet, and as you know, some people swear by that. So yeah, they got to put that on the controller. That's cool. And then another thing that people are getting excited about that I'm not particularly excited about, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference at all, is 1,000 hertz polling rate. And I got into some arguments today over Discord about like, well, if you're on 1,000 hertz polling rate, then there's going to be like all like better motion clarity on your crosshair and all that kind of stuff, man. It's like the human eye can't even see in that type of fidelity, dude. And you're talking about being updated 1,000 times a second. That cursor's moving across the screen like this, and it's being updated 1,000 times. Is it gonna make it look smoother? I don't think I'm gonna notice that, dude. Like, let's get real, man. But some people swear by that, dude. And yes, there is a difference between 250 and 500 hertz. Like, you do get a little bit better control that way. So maybe 1,000. Hey, you know, make it 2,000, make it 4,000 hertz. So it's like updating like 10,000 times a second. Like, as long as you got the CPU for that, I mean, hey, have at it, Hoss. You know what I'm saying? I can't complain. You know, maybe the Alpakka 3 will have, you know, freaking 7 gyros in it or whatever, right? Like, they'll have like one gyro for like the scroll wheel or something, and then just have like 3 gyros on each side or something. Like how ridiculous is this gonna get? Like, really? And so, yeah, when it says here that it works like a native mouse, they're not playing around. It does work about that good. Now, unfortunately, with gyro controllers, it physically can't work as good as a mouse, no matter how good the sensor is. And I learned that the hard way when I was trying to mess around with like split gyro, where like the controllers is so little and dinky. It makes it so much worse. Basically, what's going on is you can only make the controller so wide, right? You only make the controller so wide so you be able to still bend your wrist. This controller is about as wide as it can be, so they already designed that correctly, pretty much as optimally as it can be. And basically, even with the controller being at the maximum width they can physically be to bend your wrist, it gives you essentially like if you're to translate it over to like how it would be on mouse, like one of those little wrist mouse pads is essentially the amount of space that you have to work with when you're talking about like how much angle you have of turning, like the distance of turning your wrist or whatever. And yeah, like I said, I mapped that all out or whatever, and like the distance that you're turning when you move in a circle is about, I don't know, 9.3 inches or something, and then one of those wrist rest mouse pads is like 8.6 inches wide. So there's no way to physically make it as good as a mouse. Unfortunately, I kind of learned that lesson, but this is going to be as close as you can possibly get. I mean, for all practical purposes, yes, it's gonna be as accurate as a mouse is gonna be. It's just but it's gonna be like you're playing with a mouse on like a little fucking mouse pad, right? That you like rest your wrist on and move back and forth. Like you don't have like your whole arm like sliding across the mouse pad like some of those pro players do. So that's just kind of the reality of gyro. But let's look at the specs of this thing, man. Like, oh, and by the way, it says right here the Alpakka Pro pre-assembled, ejection molded. Thank you. I don't know how they got the money to like injection mold because they said that was one of the reasons why they went with the 3D printed thing. Um, they might be outsourcing this, like this having like a third party supplier make the shells or something like that, or maybe they somehow bought an injection molding machine. I don't know like how they're managing to do this, but hey, man, I mean, more power to them. I mean, they're trying their absolute best to try to make the best controller possible. And that's why I don't mind, even though I barely use the OG Alpakka, giving money to these guys or whatever supports their quest for trying to make like the ultimate controller. And I was talking to the person who makes this controller or whatever, and I suggested, like, look, this thing is not going to be like Toyota where you're pumping out Camrys and Corollas. This is like the Ferrari of controllers. This is for people who want an absolute premium product, who want the best of the best possible control that you could have on, using a controller against PC tryhards on mouse and keyboard on PC. That's what people want here, and they're willing to pay a crap ton of money to get that. And that's one of the fears I have with this controller is that it's probably going to cost a lot of money. You're talking about slapping 4 gyroscopes on it. They're talking about having an injection molding. And keep in mind, Input Labs does not have economy of scale like PlayStation does, where they're buying like 1,000,000 parts at a time and they can get a discount for just buying in bulk like crazy. I mean, these guys are kind of like a small operation or whatever, so naturally they're not going to have that economic advantage to be able to control costs like their competitors would. So the way that they need to go, the only way they can go, is quality. This is like a handmade thing, kind of. So they need to have this be the best it can be. So let's check out the specs, and it looks like they're going in that direction from what I'm reading here. So we're looking at what we have here. So it says, okay, now they're going to a single piece cross D-pad. Thank you. Because having it be like the D-pad be like 4 different buttons, that's just not ideal, dude. And that's not how like normal controllers work. That's one thing where they're like, right off the bat, they're trying to make it more like a normal controller. And then let's see here. This is the normal stuff. Face buttons. You got all these extra buttons here that are making them kind of square or whatever. I guess that's fine. I guess nobody's really going to complain about the buttons being like this, a straight up cube or whatever on the controller. It's a little bit ugly aesthetically, like maybe go with like round buttons, but whatever, man. I mean, people are not going to be that picky about it. But it says 2 high quality thumbsticks. Now let's get real. If they're talking about the regular potentiometers like they put on the PlayStation and Switch 2 controller and all that, dude, it's gonna get stick drift, man. Those potentiometers wear out pretty quickly. They're built for planned obsolescence. They're only like designed to last so many cycles before they wear out. And this is even tested in the lab. They go about 2 million cycles before they wear out. I mean, it's just maybe they can give you ones that's like, oh, well, it's like 4 million cycles. Okay, well, instead of wearing out in 8 months, it goes like a year and a half. Like, you know what I mean? It's still gonna get stick drift, dude. So they got down here where they're talking about Hall effect and TMR thumbsticks. There you go. Input labs, you're gonna have to do that. And and I talked with Marcos or whatever. He said the TMR joysticks is gonna be complicated and whatnot. Okay, well just do Hall effect. I mean, you can get Hall effect modules for like I don't know a couple dollars or something. It shouldn't add to the controller that much. It says we will investigate using mechanical switches, and in my humble opinion, they probably don't need to do that. I mean, a membrane system's probably fine. People are not really going to complain about that much, I don't think. But if they want to make this controller like the best they can possibly be, I mean, they're already thinking about mechanical switches. That would be cool, but to save costs, I mean, I'm thinking about how much this thing's going to cost. I mean, with what they're talking about, this thing might be like $300 easy. The OG Alpakka, like 3D printed, was already $200. It was expensive, dude. It's hard to make the case of like a normie that like, hey, spend $200 on a controller, like half the cost of a console. People are like, what? That's crazy. Because you can buy like a DualSense for like right now on Black Friday for $55. All the way up until Christmas, it's like $60. But yeah, my bad. I gotta re-record some of this because the audio had to record double inputs for some reason. But yeah, it's hard to justify spending so much on a controller for normal people, especially in this economy right now. But anyway, it says right here you got 1,000 hertz polling rate wired. And from my experience, like when a controller like the DualSense Edge, for instance, is set on 1,000 hertz, there's more noise involved and it actually performs worse. But when you're talking about you have 4 gyro sensors, that 1,000 hertz might actually be legit, and it's saying zero point 0.5 milliseconds of latency. So this thing is going to be super responsive. And then this really catches my eye too. You have a 2.4 gigahertz dongle with 2 milliseconds of latency. Wow. So this thing is going to be like one of those high quality wireless mice where like the amount of end-to-end latency is comparable to a mouse wired, and in some cases even better than that. I mean, that's crazy. And then it says here it's going to be, outputted as a HID mouse or an HID keyboard, and then it's also X input, and that means that you can use it on Steam input, and that's a good feature in case people want to use like smoothing with the controller. But yeah, this thing is going to be like totally plug and play. I mean, you just plug this thing in and it just works. I mean, it's like a mouse. It requires no drivers at all to set up. I mean, it's not like normal gyro controllers where you have to do all this setup to try to get it to work. I mean, in the control app, it's pretty bare bones, but it's just like you just select like what your screen size is and it sets up the DPI for that monitor, and their presets are pretty accurate from my experience. And so like there's just no setup at all with it. It's pretty cool. um all this other software, it takes a while to figure out like what sensitivity you need to like correspond with like your monitor or whatever. That's one of the things about gyro is that there's no native support, and it's all a bitch to set up. So they're solving that problem here. And then it says the internals. Of course, you got the four gyro sensors working in parallel, and then it's gonna have a rechargeable battery, and then it says right here. I see. I don't know what this means, but this sounds pretty good. I mean, Raspberry microcontroller with 150 megahertz core frequency. Yeah, this is gonna be legit here. Like, I think what they're going for here with this processor is they're trying to make it where the end-to-end latency, and that's important. You can't just look at the polar rate. You got to look at the end-to-end, full latency from like when you hit the button to where it goes onto your screen. You can't just look at the polar rate. That's kind of meaningless because they're gonna be smoothing and all kinds of stuff going on, right? But yeah, this I'll have to study like what this means here. But it sounds to me like, yeah, this is gonna control way better than a normal gyro controller. But yeah, let me see here if there's anything else I need to stay here. Um, but yeah, it's saying here what all is on the control app. Like I said, it's kind of pretty bare bones. Oh, and it's gonna have this little display here. That's pretty nifty, which says like what profile you're on or whatever. And the OG Alpakka just has like four little lights that kind of don't mean much. It's really cool to get this information here to say how the controller is being set up. Um, and like I said, my only concern with this thing is this gonna be like, what is this gonna cost? Because like I made a joke on like the gyro Discord. It's like, well, let's see here. Dual kidneys, quad gyro, right? I think I'll go with the quad gyro. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to give up a kidney probably to get this controller. I mean, it's not gonna be cheap. We're talking probably. My prediction. You want to know what I predict this controller is gonna cost? $250. Like as expensive as a Scuff or Battle Beaver controller. And to a lot of people like who are hardcore enthusiasts, that's gonna be like worth it. They're gonna shell out that $250 in a heartbeat without even thinking about it even a second. But to a normie or whatever who doesn't really understand what four high quality IMU sensors working in parallel means, they're gonna be like, nah, no thanks, bro. I'm not gonna drop 250 bones on that. I don't care how good it is. And that's probably just the reality of the situation. I mean, the Alpakka 2 is not gonna just like be the be all end all of controllers, period. It's gonna be a premium product, and it's going to give people a very high quality premium option. It looks like, as long as they don't fall into the same pitfalls that they did the OG Alpakka. You have to just make it like a normal controller. The thing that people care about is they care about those internals, man. They care about you have that beast sensor that's giving you that mouse like accuracy. All this other cutesy little stuff, like having like the little polygonal shell and all that kind of stuff, nobody cares about, man. No, nobody's wanting that. And I was trying to, I was, I hate to be mean to them or whatever, but like I'm trying to like give them, I'm trying to give them reality because I want this controller to be good, man. I want this to be awesome, and it looks like, boy, they listen, man. They listen to almost every criticism that I had, and even some criticism that other people had, like, hey, bro, is this gonna be wireless? And then I'm like, yeah, sure, bro. It's gonna be wireless with 2 milliseconds of latency. Let's freaking go. So yes, it's probably gonna take a while for them to develop this controller. I mean, right now this is in like the planning stages, I'm sure, and it's gonna take them a while. We're talking probably like a year or two in the future that this thing is gonna come out or whatever. But this dropped on Input Labs website, and it gets something that people for the gyro community get excited about, and something to really look forward to. And I'm excited too, and I can't wait to get a prototype of this controller. They even said they would send me a prototype so I can test it out. And I don't know if that's going to be like under like a no non-disclosure agreement or whatever. Are they going to allow me to even talk about the prototype? Hey, that'd be crazy, dude. That'd be crazy to have a review on my channel of a controller that doesn't even exist yet. That would be awesome, man. So, yeah, I'm super duper Cooper excited for the Alpakka 2, and I hope you are too. Peace out.